Welcome to our Constitution Day events, which we will be celebrating all week long. These events are brought to you by Maricopa Community Colleges Center for Excellence in Inclusive Democracy, where we focus on civic engagement and democracy, and the great civic engagement staff at our colleges. Special thanks to the folks in MCLI for providing fabulous technical support. We couldn't bring these events without them. Just a reminder that all of our events this week are nonpartisan, not biased toward any particular political group. Our goal is to provide you with factual information so that you can make your own educated to vote on, but we just want to ensure that you have the right skills and that you are well-informed and engaged individuals in your community. And that's really one of the goals here at Maricopa, not just to prepare students for a transfer to the university or for a job, but also to make sure that you have the skill set to be fully engaged citizens in your community. So yesterday, Monday, September 12th, we had a great discussion about the 10 ballot propositions that you will be seeing this November. Arizona has a history of long ballots because of our initiative process. So please make sure you have a plan to vote. Today, we are going to be focusing on wanted, more than your vote. We recognize that voting is important, but we certainly want you to be engaged in your community above and beyond just voting. So to help us explore the many ways that you can all be involved in your communities, we want to welcome Holly Torville, former Maricopa Community College student, Katie Haar, Service Learning and Civic Engagement Program Supervisor at Chandler Gilbert Community College, and Donovan Carr, Tribal Liaison and Community Outreach Coordinator with the Office of the Secretary of State. So welcome to our panelists today. Holly, if we could start off with you, if you could just tell us a little bit about your time here at Maricopa, how you engaged in the campus and in the community, and what you are up to now.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on here today. I'm Holly Torville. I'm a legal assistant at a law firm in Scottsdale, and I'm in my junior year at ASU, majoring in public policy and public service with an emphasis on law and policy. Just a little bit of background about me. My interest in public service really began during the presidential election of 2016. Felt very moved by the political climate in our nation and really wanted to get involved in the nation's politics and work on policies that affect the lives of everybody. So I moved from Arizona to Arizona from Minnesota about 4 years ago, and I started classes at Maricopa Community Colleges right away. But I do have to continue working full time, so I did online and night classes. So I found that my ability to participate in college campus social activities was kind of limited. So I knew I had to find something that connected me to the policymaking process. So in my last year at MCC, I participated in the Student Public Policy Forum. That's where I got to meet Deanna, and I got to work with other students just like me that were interested in policymaking. It's a year-long program that broke down every step of the legislative process, everything from the budget to how to pass a bill, everything. So it was the most rewarding experience I've had in my college career so far, because it gave me the opportunity to meet with local community leaders, state representatives, and senators. And from that program, I was actually able to meet Alexis Susdorf, who is the governmental relations director of Maricopa Community Colleges. And she asked me and a few other students to speak on behalf of MCC students for a bill that would allow for MCC to offer bachelor degrees. So huge bill. It meant a lot to me and to my fellow spiffers, as we call ourselves. She set up the meetings, and we met with any legislator that would listen to us. And we advocated on behalf of the students, and finally got the bill passed. I think it was after like 20 years effort, we finally got it passed, and the governor signed it. And that really was the light bulb moment for me, that this is what I wanted to do with my life. And it's a very rewarding part of the policymaking process. So that's just a little bit about me.
Thanks so much, Holly. Appreciate you putting in a plug for our student public
Yeah.
policy program. The link is in the chat. If we have any students out there that might be interested in joining this year, we won't start until October, so there's still time to put in an application for that program. And Holly did a great job speaking on behalf of the student community. And again, it's one way, one demonstrated way to be involved just above and beyond voting. Again, voting's super important, but there's lots to do in this spectrum we like to call civic engagement. So Holly, thanks for sharing a little bit about that. And you also mentioned Alexis Susdorf, who's our government relations director. She will be tomorrow's guest on our Constitution Week activity, talking about Maricopa's legislative agenda and how we as a system interact with elected officials. So thanks for that, Holly. Katie, let's turn to you. So this is really your job here at Maricopa. You're one of our fantastic civic engagement staff at the college, motivating students and providing opportunities for engagement. So tell us what happens in your world.
Sure. Thanks, Deanna. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. So my role at Chandler Gilbert is really two kind of separate arms. So one of the arms is what we call service learning. It's actually a teaching strategy that takes all of this amazing in the classroom learning and content and all these things students are learning in the classroom and ties it with service projects and events and all this different stuff out in the community. So there's a huge component of community involvement and in the classroom learning when it comes to service learning. So that really is a teaching strategy. So that's kind of one arm of the job that we do here in my office. And then the other arm, I laugh, is this giant umbrella of what civic engagement is, right? So like Deanna mentioned, we do help with voter registration and voter education, but there is also opportunity. So volunteerism also falls under civic engagement. And so our students have an opportunity to just volunteer and get involved in the community. There are opportunities. We work really closely with our city entities. So the town of Gilbert, the city of Chandler, Queen Creek, Tempe, kind of anywhere that we can help students get connected to their cities. There's a lot of involvement around different boards that they could join as residents with parts of the city. There's a lot of opportunity in events and resources and support. I believe today our mayor of Chandler is having a roundtable for the residents of Chandler to talk to the mayor. So just a lot of opportunity. And so my job really is getting all of that information and trying to get it out to our students so that they can be connected to their community and know what's going on in their community. And then when needed, have resources and supports and things like that out in the community or the knowledge of so that they can share that with maybe family or friends or folks that kind of need some different connections to nonprofits and different entities in the community.
Awesome. Huge umbrella that and scope of work that you have there, Katie. So thanks for sharing a little bit. Can you talk about some of the agencies that you partner with in terms of volunteerism? So what does that look like? Does it have to be a long-term commitment, sporadic commitment? How can students and community members fit those things into their schedule?
Definitely. We like to say that, civic engagement can look what you need it to look like. I know Holly mentioned she was working full time. So time might not be an area that Holly can give to a nonprofit partner, but we say you can donate your goods, your time, or your money. So there's lots of different ways to be involved. We have lots of nonprofit partners with different populations. So we work with folks that work with food insecurity. We work with folks that work with unhoused individuals and the homeless population, youth, seniors, animals, the environment. There's just so many different types of organizations that are doing incredible work in our community. And so if you have a passion for that, there's ways for you to connect. And so it's just being able to find those organizations. And so that's what me and my team, I really hope that we can connect all students to kind of their passion, like Holly found. That was such a great story to hear from her. And then the other way I said, you can donate money. I know a lot of people don't have a ton of money. I am fortunate that I found a big kid job that, can allow me a couple $20 here and there to the Boys and Girls Club or organizations that I really find passion behind their mission. It is good to donate money and your goods. If you have extra clothes or extra canned goods, there's just lots and lots of opportunity to get involved in the way that you want to get involved, if that makes sense, Deanna.
Makes perfect sense. And I think sometimes people hear the term civic engagement, and there's actually been studies that that isn't a term that necessarily resonates with people. And so sometimes you hear the term, you're like, well, what does that mean exactly? So I appreciate you giving all of those different examples. And it backs up what Holly discovered, that really it's just about finding your passion and how you can plug in. So thanks for doing all that work at the campus to help students and community members plug into their passion and find an outlet for that. So thanks for all the work that you do there. I also have to give a shout out to Katie and her team at Chandler Gilbert Community College and Mesa Community College made the top 100 list of best colleges for student voting this year. So huge round of applause for all the great folks doing wonderful work out at our college campuses. Donovan, let's turn the table to you now. You have a long history of supporting engagement with specific populations here in our region. So can you tell us a little bit about the work that you do on behalf of the Secretary of State?
Awesome. Yes, gladly. Again, so happy to be here. Thank you very much for organizing this, and happy Constitution Week to the Maricopa Community Colleges. And as Deanna introduced me, I'm the Tribal Liaison and Outreach Coordinator for the Secretary of State's office. The Secretary of State has several charges as an agency, and the most, I guess the responsibility we're most known for is elections administration. The Secretary is the Chief Elections Officer for the state and helps coordinate with the 15 counties to administer elections locally. And so my job at the Secretary of State's office in working in outreach is to work with all the diverse communities across the state that are working to engage communities in the civic process. And as Deanna said, it's not, it can come across as boring or right, boring. And we want to talk about how important civic engagement is, but with these communities, and more specifically for Indigenous communities, we want to recognize the history, the difficult history of the lack of engagement or the lack of a relationship from state agencies, from the government in these communities. And my job, number one, is to listen to these communities, listen to Arizonans across the state about what they need. And so communication is number one in my work. A lot of my work is to develop these relationships where there was previously none, or to develop, to create, kind of foster a more robust communication line and relationship with these communities. And so it's very diverse, it's challenging. I love the work. And when it comes specifically to the 22 nations and tribes of Arizona, that's a special community that we have to work with their governments in how they operate their communities and how they engage civically. And so recognizing the history and then charting a path forward by listening to them, recognizing tribal sovereignty and the values that Indigenous communities hold relationally. And so we've been able to make inroads into engagement and participation. And that's reflected in, of course, the record-breaking participation in elections in the 2020 elections. I mean, faced with the absolutely unprecedented global pandemic, the public health crisis, we still saw an amazing turnout in Indigenous communities because we said we would listen, and because we said we would allow these communities to take the lead in how best to engage them, and then unraveling the nuance of what is civic engagement, right, and what it means to each community. It'll mean there'll be differences in what it means to each community and how they do that. And so allowing these groups and organizations and neighborhoods and to take the lead in that engagement and take those recommendations and run with it has allowed us to administer elections across Arizona more effectively. So that's a little bit about what we've done and what I do. I've always worked in civic engagement. I've always worked in, I'm just a lifelong civil servant. So a cog in a wheel, but our work is important because we dedicate our work to the betterment of these communities. So absolutely love it, and it's an adventure.
It's always an adventure. And I appreciate the fact that you say it's not boring. I think some people, again, hear the term and think, oh gosh, it's just about politics, or it's, just about voting. And it's not. It's so exciting to be civically engaged in your community. And a big thank you to all the work that you did working with tribal communities. They absolutely saw a record-breaking number of voters and engaged in the process this year. And for that to happen during a pandemic is just outstanding. So can you talk a little bit about the challenges that sometimes our Indigenous communities face? Maricopa Community Colleges partners with a number of tribal communities, and we have a number of Indigenous students across our system from a variety of tribal nations and tribal communities. So what are some of the particular challenges that those communities sometimes face in terms of voting, like the ID and the fact that we are working with sovereign nations?
Absolutely. Specifically, again, for Indigenous communities, there's this extra layer of marginalization or otherness that comes with being from these communities. Our culture and values are different. And so when Indigenous voters come into civic engagement, it's an extra layer of civic engagement. Like for myself, I'm Diné from Northern Arizona. I have to learn to participate in my tribal government, and then also recognize that elections and engagement and civics is also happening at the state and federal level. So you have this extra layer of, I guess, personal responsibility for a voter, an Indigenous voter, and explaining all of this and kind of learning it. How we do things is going to be different than how the state and the federal elections happen. And then again, the Indigenous communities, certainly not a monolith. Like I said, 22 nations and tribe, each community, the way that each community handles government or runs their communities is absolutely, it's diverse, it's different. There's tribal history there, tribal relations between the tribes. And so you have an Indigenous voter that will come into, for example, our Indigenous community members that come into the Maricopa County metropolitan area. Like I said, there's an extra level of otherness. You've got to come in and explain about how to vote, the basics, what you got to get done. Our ID cards are different for each community. Some are very similar to our state identification and driver's licenses. Others are non-photo ID paperwork. And so the voter has to navigate all of those requirements. And it gets confusing. It becomes, you get lost in the minutia of it. And so it's really kind of communicating a straightforward plan to the voter about how they can vote. Additionally, voting didn't happen historically in every Indigenous community the way that we see it today. Most Indigenous communities are matrilineal with clan systems, and government happened a lot differently than how we see it today. And so you're educating an Indigenous person on how to move in civics in their tribe, and then move in civic engagement and participation as a United States citizen. So there's a duality there that they have to kind of take on. Recognizing that and addressing it, in helping navigate all of that respectfully as a partnership, communicating. That's how we're effective in our work.
You do a remarkable job, Donovan. So thank you for explaining that to us. I think it's important for all of us viewers and those of us tuning in to recognize the complexity when we talk about voting, when we talk about civic engagement. But there's so many ways that you can plug into the system, and we just have to be, again, respectful of the communities with whom we are working. So thanks for all the work that you do. We did have a question pop up in the chat about civic engagement sort of in general, and then programs under civic engagement. So civic engagement really is this entire umbrella, as Katie said, of all the different things that you can be doing to make a positive impact in your community. And for some, that's voting or helping others to register to vote and talking about the process. It's getting together and volunteering and making a hands-on difference in your community. It can be running for office yourself. It could be serving on a board or commission. All of the ways that you are trying to make a positive impact in your community, that's really what civic engagement is about. And there's a number of different lanes, so to speak, that you can pick to devote your time. Holly, do you want to tell us a little about some of the activities you did to lead when you were involved as a Maricopa Community College student, a SPIF student, our Student Public Policy Forum? I think you moderated a forum yourself. You were involved with Arizona Town Hall. So tell us a little bit about how that happened for you.
Yeah, so part of the SPIF program, we also take a class on the side. I can't recall the class right now, but it's a separate class that you take at Mesa Community College, I believe. And in that class, one of the assignments was to essentially host a town hall or host a social event for students. And me and my team decided to do a seminar on this exact topic, civic engagement. So we had to, coordinate the WebEx and everything, and, the technological side of everything. And then we also had to develop the program. So what we were going to talk about, what we were going to ask. We also work, thank goodness, especially with Deanna's help and the connections that Maricopa Community Colleges have with local legislators and things. We were able to get a senator to speak on the panel. We were able to get Alexis Sistorf actually was a panelist as well. So that was kind of the efforts that we put into, making that happen. So that was one part of how we engaged with the students at Maricopa, and really, it's exactly what we're doing here. We're discussing how to become more civically engaged. So I think, students may sometimes feel helpless in the civic engagement process, so they don't know where to start. And I think it's really important to let people know, or let students know particularly, that we all have the capacity to make a positive impact in our own little way. You even attending this seminar itself is civic engagement. You are engaging with your community, you're engaging with leaders in the community, and listening to the needs of the community. And just by exposing yourself to as many opportunities as possible, that's my biggest advice that I can give to Maricopa Community College students. Just expose yourself to many opportunities and engage in the issues that you find most compelling to you and most important in your community. But that's what a little bit I did during my time at Maricopa. And of course, speaking or being a student advocate for the bill, that was another way I personally engaged in my community. But yeah, I hope that answers that question.
It sure did. Thank you for that, Holly. And I appreciate you saying how, even being here today is being civically engaged. You're raising your own awareness, and you absolutely have that power to make a difference.
Deanna, can I jump in and piggyback off of Holly?
Yes, absolutely.
So for students that are on the call, if you kind of don't know where to start, I'm going to do a shameless plug. Always start with your student life and leadership office. Student life and leadership, even if civic engagement doesn't fall under that, they will know who on your campus is kind of coordinating those civic engagement efforts or those volunteer efforts, or so because all of our 10 colleges have their own unique college cultures, some of those programs live in different areas. But your student life and leadership folks are going to be able to tell you who's kind of organizing that. And then I also wanted to mention, if you love civic engagement or you love volunteerism, ask your student life and leadership departments if there's a volunteerism club or a civic engagement club. It's there are guardrails kind of already in place in some of our colleges to really quickly plug you in to groups of people that have similar interests in the world of civic engagement. So definitely ask student life and leadership about clubs related to civic engagement or volunteerism or social justice or kind of whatever your hobbies are. Yeah, that's my shameless plug. Sorry, Deanna.
No, don't apologize for that. That was going to be my next question for you. How would a student on a campus get started? So I appreciate you giving the plug for exactly where to go. I also appreciate Jen Sedow being on the call. And at Scottsdale, you would want to look for the Student Experience and Leadership Office. At Maricopa, we have lots of different names for lots of different functions. So that's where you would want to go at Scottsdale. But even being involved in a club, being involved in student government, that is all ways that you can have a positive impact. And that falls under that big umbrella that we're talking about when we talk civic engagement. Again, it's really just wanting to make a positive difference in your community. And that is what it is at its essence. At what we like to say at Maricopa, it's also combining what you know and what you're learning about an issue. So if food insecurity is what you're passionate about, how do you educate yourself about that issue and all the many different layers that get involved in that issue, that impact that issue? How can you do something with your hands to really have a positive contribution? What is it that you will do and act upon? And then, of course, it matches up with what your passions are. So how do you match up your head, heart, and hands to have the greatest positive impact that you can? So Katie, as long as you jumped in, let's talk a little bit about, students on campus. How do you get them plugged in? What would be kind of the first step? How do you take them through that process? And then a little bit more about the differences between service learning and other volunteer activities.
That's a very loaded question, Deanna. How do we get started? I think that, so I have an incredible team and we have a heart for the job that we do. So it is something that we just speak about often to any student that we kind of interact with. But as far as more structure goes, we, faculty will come to us and say like, hey, I want my students to know what's going on. So we do class presentations about civic engagement and all the opportunities that are possible to our students. We actually do faculty presentations to just kind of let faculty know what resources and supports are available for our students. We do have a volunteer club on our campus, a service club called the Help Club. We are rebuilding after the pandemic. So I'm co-chairing or co-advising that to get students plugged in and involved. It really is about asking questions. And I appreciate Jen's comment. It's going to look different at every campus. So just start asking questions, start talking to your faculty, say like, I'm kind of interested in this. Can you help me? And usually there are going to be those connections. Like, I don't know anyone on campus, but I'll get you connected to Deanna because Deanna is amazing and knows everything. But it really is about asking questions. And one thing that I really want students to be aware of, because I have suffered from it too, anxiety and the unknowing, right? So you may be interested in volunteering, but you might be a little anxious, like you kind of don't know where to start or you don't know what to do or what organization to go to. Like, bring a friend. All of our nonprofits mostly work off of volunteers. So if you want to bring 3 people with you so that it kind of like calms your anxiety of going to a new location or doing something you're kind of not super involved in and you're trying something for the first time, it can really help lower that anxiety. Some of our nonprofits, if you have children, accept kids as young as 13 to volunteer in those opportunities. So starting that heart for service with your kids is incredible. I mean, if you have questions, I say email me. I will put my email in the chat. Even if you're not at our school, I will try to figure out who to help you get connected to if you really have a desire or an interest in learning more and doing more in your community, because there are so many opportunities.
Thank you for that, Katie. That wasn't a loaded question at all. You handled it marvelously, answered that really, really well. So our nonprofit community, to Katie's point, really have been impacted just like we all have with the pandemic. Sometimes funding was at risk. We saw some nonprofits go under, just not being able to stay sustainable because of the crisis that we were in. And as programs get back in person and as more people are coming back in person, a lot of our nonprofits are welcoming those volunteers back with open arms. And there's just so many different ways that you can get plugged in. Again, think first, for those of you that have been asking the question how to get started, what are you passionate about? What do you care about? And how can you match that up with someone, a group, an agency, a club, a nonprofit that's already doing something? Then you can just plug yourself right in. So it's really about, again, what are you passionate about? And then how can you get plugged in? That's going to be the best first step. Now, Donovan, if you could share a couple of ways that folks could be involved, because we are leading up to Constitution Day. We've got fall elections coming up in November. There are ways to volunteer at polling places, correct? Can you share that a little bit with viewers?
Absolutely. So September is National Voter Registration Month. National Voter Registration Day is celebrated Tuesday, September 20th. And we just recently celebrated in the elections world National Poll Worker Day, National Poll Worker Recruitment Day. And what and those efforts are to help put the word out that there are opportunities in actual election administration for our communities to serve and volunteer and help administer elections. The most obvious way is to help with poll worker, to help to be a poll worker and to come to the actual polls to help administer elections. Poll worker training happens with the 15 counties of Arizona, and each county administers the poll worker training a little differently, but each county has programs for volunteers to receive the training. It's a couple of hours out of the day, and you opt in to work at early in-person voting locations. Here in Maricopa County, they have a program called the Deputy Registrar Program, where you can sign up, become a deputy registrar, receive the training, and help out at the vote centers across the county, where you'll be trained to help voters come into the voting place, into the polling place, select their ballot, even help explain the propositions to the voter, and work with lifelong elections officials in actually using your hands, like Deanna said, in helping these voters to vote. There's opportunities for translators at polling locations. If you speak Spanish or an indigenous language, you can provide help by providing language services and help build up and tear down these polling locations. What is interesting for indigenous communities is that typically those polling places, the county officials coordinate with tribal governments to set up the polling place, for the county officials to come in and set up those polling places. They happen at the local, I guess we would call them town halls. Some of them are chapter houses or community centers, much like the Gila River Indian community has. Those are the polling places. Poll workers would come in with all the equipment, the voting machines, help set that up. They would receive training on how to do that, and then tear that down at the end of the election day. And it's great fun. I know that stipends are paid at different rates and levels throughout the state. And elections workers and county officials, as we get closer to election day, there are some stipulations that you have to be from the county that you're going to serve in. But as we get closer to election day, recorders and elections workers will waive that stipulation, and someone from Maricopa could travel to a more rural part of the state and be a poll worker there. Poll worker training can also happen for students as young as 16 years old. There are training programs for them. And so county elections workers work with local high schools and school districts to get the word out about these programs and opportunities. So don't think that because you're not 18 or you can't vote yet, that you can't participate, because definitely at 16, there are poll worker training programs for you. And there's also opportunities for pre-registration to register, to pre-register to vote, and get your paperwork all in order so that you turn 18, you're ready to vote. So those are some opportunities.
No, those are great opportunities. Thank you, Donovan. And so again, even if you're not personally eligible for whatever reason, you can actually help that day of voting. And we're going to have Michelle put some links in the chat. If you contact county elections officials, you can get signed up. They have really, really robust training programs where you can be active and engaged that day, helping people at the polls. For those of you that have been at a poll location to cast your vote, you can see there's an entire machine of people engaged in this to help make it happen across the state. And so you can be part of that very hands-on. And in some cases, there is a stipend available. So that doesn't hurt, right? If you need a little bit of extra money, there's that plug as well. Donovan, I appreciate you said earlier, you're just a cog in the wheel, a piece of the machinery that keeps it going. And I always give a big plug for our public servants. People sometimes think of bureaucracy in a bad way, but I think bureaucracy with our public servants is the best possible thing, because it keeps the machinery of government moving, keeps water running, it keeps streets paved, and it keeps elections going. So thanks to all of our fabulous public servants out there. As we start winding down our day today, and you'll see all those links, lots of great resources in the chat, so please copy and paste those. If I could ask the three of you one last question, what would be your best advice, that golden nugget, single piece of advice to those that might be tuning in today about how to be involved above and beyond elections? What would be the one big thing that you would suggest? And if you're, again, golden ticket or golden nugget of advice for folks.
So I think the biggest thing one of the first steps you can do in becoming more civically engaged is finding who your local legislators are. So Arizona has 30 districts. Each district has two representatives, one senator. Find out what your district is, what district you live in, and then find out your legislators. So you can go to azleg.gov to find out who they are and familiarize yourself with what platform they're running on. Are you happy with the issues they are taking a stance with, or do you want to see a different change? And I think that will equip you with the knowledge to help you when you get to your voting decision. And we all want to be educated voters, and we want to know what issues are important in the community and what representatives we want to fight for those issues. That would be my first golden little nugget. Find out who your representatives are, equip yourself with the knowledge of what are they doing to serve your community, and use that knowledge at the polls.
Great advice. Thank you, Holly. Katie, your golden ticket or golden nugget of advice?
My golden nugget of advice. I think it would be to find your passion. So in civic engagement, like we've talked about, is such a huge umbrella. There is so much work going on. I mentioned all of the different types of service that happen. So really finding your passion and what that looks like, and if it's working with youth, if it's working with seniors, if it's regarding, food insecurity, dig in, find out what's going on in your community. Just kind of like Holly was mentioning, um, we're in this large group of, or we're in a state called Arizona, but we are in these smaller pockets of like the cities and the towns and the neighborhoods that we're in. And so really just being aware of what is happening around you. And if you like what's happening around you, then, you know, keep driving that way. But if you don't like what's happening around you, find your voice, and you find your voice through finding your passion. So find your passion.
Love that piece of advice. Thank you, Katie. Appreciate it. Donovan, your golden ticket or your golden nugget for those seeking to be engaged?
Absolutely. Much in the same vein as Holly had mentioned, my golden nugget for getting involved is to recognize your leaders in your community, find out who they are, start in community. We want to meet people where they are. Our values for our diverse communities, let those values guide you. There's no secret recipe. To begin, there's no secret sauce. It's the tried and true methods of step one, listening. Find out who your elders and leaders are in your community. Connect with them and listen to them. And then listen to the community. The community will begin to provide you, they'll give you a laundry list of things they need. And if you come up and say, we're here to help, you will most certainly get that laundry list. No matter what community it is across the world, you step forward to connect with your community. You just meet people where they are, you listen, you connect with elders, follow their leadership, take their guidance, and these tried and true methods will get the ball rolling for you to begin engaging meaningfully and substantively where you're actually making a difference. And after that, it's pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward. The ball will be rolling, and you'll be in it to win it. You'll be working. And I guess a word of caution is it's very hard work. So you got to be ready with your sleeves rolled up and ready to even get dirty sometimes. So that's my golden nugget.
Thank you. That was a great round of golden tickets, golden nuggets. So let's give a virtual shout out to all of our panelists for joining us today, for sharing such great information. There are lots of resource links that we've popped into the chat. So I really encourage you to highlight those, save those. Again, this is a nonpartisan event. We're not telling you what decisions to make. We just want to make sure you have the skill set and the information to make your own well-informed decisions. So lots of great resources. Again, Secretary of State's site, Arizona Vote. You can find out all kinds of voter information there. Maricopa County, since we are in Maricopa County, we put our Maricopa County Recorder information, Elections Department information in there. You can find out how to be trained as a deputy registrar, poll worker. You can sign up for that. azledge.gov, the link is in there. You can find out all about your state elected officials. I would also encourage you to visit your local city, town website to find out who local elected officials are. And you would be surprised at how accessible elected officials are here in this state. They really welcome meeting with constituents, meeting with students. So please don't think that it's a scary thing. It really is an easier process than you might be thinking. And then also Clean Elections. That is another avenue for great nonpartisan information about what you are going to see on your ballot. And my golden nugget for you all, if you're planning to vote in November, make a plan to vote. It will be quite a lengthy ballot. We have lots of statewide races, 10 ballot propositions. If you think you can show up and read your ballot and make quick decisions, that's not going to be the case. Lots of issues for you to think about. So use one of the resources, the links we've provided in the chat, so that you can see what is going to be on your ballot in advance, and you can make a well-informed decision, make a plan to vote. That would be my golden nugget for you all. And city websites, thank you, have a volunteer section as well. So another great resource for you. I want to thank you all for joining us for our second day and our Constitution Week long activities. I encourage you to keep tuning in the rest of the week. Tomorrow we will have our Maricopa Government Relations Director, Alexis Sustorf, talking about our college's legislative agenda. On Thursday, we will have Avery, a good dear friend of Maricopa's, here from Clean Elections to talk about what will be on your ballot. And then Friday, we have Maricopa County Recorder Stephen Richer, who will be joining us to talk about Constitution Day in general and voting specifically. So I hope you have a great rest of your day, everyone. Go out there and be civically engaged.